So good afternoon, St. Mike's. I am Kevin Collins and I'm here with Nestor Maslej, who is running for the 2012-2013 Student Government President. Welcome to the show, Nestor.
Hi, Kevin. How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. So today we're going to be able to meet with Nestor and hopefully learn a little bit more about him and his campaign and what he'll try and accomplish if he was to be elected as president next year. So we are going to ask Nestor 5 questions, which he knew ahead of time, and then one question that'll sort of test Nestor and see if he can improv on the spot. So without any delay, here is our first question. So why do you want to be student government president, and what applicable attributes or experience do you have that will make you the man for the job?
You know, I think in my career at St. Mike's, like in the 3 years that I've been here, it's been a great ride, and I think the school has given a lot to me. The teachers have given a lot to me. The students have given a lot to me, and especially the students, you know, the people in the school have given a lot to me, and I feel that by being president, I can give them something back. I think that I have a lot of great ideas. I think I have experience that's necessary for this position, and that sort of ties into the second part of the question, which is, what sort of qualities do I possess? And I think at the end of the day, all the candidates running for this year's elections are very decent candidates. But I think the thing with me that separates me is I have a vision and I have the experience necessary to take this vision into action.
Okay. Our second question is often as any sort of position in the school, but especially as president of the student government, you often have to interact with different teachers, staff, faculty, and most importantly, students. What makes you feel that you can handle the public speaking and interactive part of being president?
Well, I think that I've been on student government already for 2 years, and I think that throughout my experience on student government, I've had to work with a lot of different people. I know that this year, when I was working for Spread the Net, I had to frequently engage with the Parents Association. I became great friends with Mrs. Gasser. I've talked with a lot of different organizations, the Daily Blue being one of them, trying to organize this different thing. And I personally consider myself to be a decent public speaker. I've been on the debate team, I've talked with a lot of friends, and I think I'm an approachable person. And I think I totally agree with you when you say that it's a very important part of the presidential job, and I think that I can handle it because I've done it before.
Sounds like you definitely know and have been there. So our third question is, this year's student government was tremendously successful. They had a huge success with the Spread the Net campaign, and kudos to all the St. Mike's guys. How do you plan to build on the success of the student government this year if you were to be elected as president?
Well, I think the thing that we can do is if we break down this year, I think the success of the student government this year has been one on a fundraising level. So we got a lot of money for a fundraising cause. We've built our kind of spiritual element in terms of religion, which I think is good. But we see that a lot of the other stuff, you know, our spirit, our pep rallies, that kind of stuff, it's been held back. And I think that's the biggest thing that can be improved at St. Mike's. And I'm going to get into that later on into the interview. But one of my main campaign points is bringing the spirit back. I mean, when I flip through St. Mike's yearbooks when I'm not supposed to be doing my homework in chemistry class or whatever the case may be, you know, with Mr. Walsh, Mr. Rubrich, whoever the teacher is, you know, I see a school that back in the day, you know, they had a lot of pep rallies. People actually showed up to some of their games. And I mean, I think, I know you're a football player personally, and you can answer this question. When was the last time you've had a sold-out crowd except for homecoming?
Not in my years.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. We're a school that prides itself on having a lot of spirit, you know, on being the most boisterous, the most rowdiest men in town. But, you know, frankly, I think that spirit's gone, and I think that my main thing next year is, if elected, I plan to, you know, bring the spirit back, to make a difference at St. Mike's, because I think that's really important. St. Mike's is a school built on its legacy, a school built on its tradition, and I think it's a tradition that I can revitalize and make better for next year.
Sounds like you definitely have a plan in mind. So our fourth question, and you sort of touched upon it, and now I'll give you a chance to speak about it, is stated very simply, what is your platform for this election?
Well, my platform consists of 4 main points. Point number 1, more transparency on student government. Point number 2, more student involvement with student government. Point number 3 is doing things better with what we have so far. And point number 4 is bringing the spirit back. And with this whole idea of transparency, I mean, frankly, nobody really knows what student government is. Nobody knows what the president does, what the vice president does, what we even do. If you ask a lot of students, they'll say, you know what, frankly, I don't really know what the student government did. And I think that has to change, which kind of ties into my second point, more student involvement. The reason we have the student government is to do something for the students, but frankly, the students are very disengaged. They're not involved at all. And I think when you have students involved, when you have things like suggestion box or maybe some sort of website where you can engage students and the student government, you can have great things. An example this year would be the video game tournament. A student had come up to me and a few other guys and suggested, you know, hey Nestor, why don't we do this sort of video game tournament in the theater? And I said, that's a great idea. We translated that into action and that changed positively. My third point is, you know, building on what we have. The student government is good in a sense that it does a lot of events, but the problem is that we just recycle the same events again and again. I think that's a great problem, and I think the thing that we need to do is we need to change that. We need to do something. And that leads me into my last point, bringing the spirit back. And this is my big thing for this campaign. And as I said in the previous question, if we look at St. Mike's legacy, it used to have a proud history, a history where people would show up to the games, a history with a lot of pep rallies. And I think that the best thing to do is to keep what we have, but take a few elements from the past. Maybe, you know, mix in a semi-formal, mix in a few more pep rallies, mix in that kind of stuff. And I think with a good team and with my experience, I can carry St. Mike's and do those kind of things.
Which leads us into our last question that Nestor was able to prepare for. And without any delay, what do you believe your strengths are, and how do you think they will benefit you in these elections?
I think the 3 main strengths that I have, as illustrated on my campaign posters, are I'm driven, I'm innovative, and I'm very experienced. Now onto this driven point. When I take on a task, I approach it very passionately. You know, I try to engage myself and try to do as much as I can. And with anything, especially with student government, I know that I'm going to do as much as I can and do the most as I can. The second point is I'm an innovative guy. I like to say that about myself. I like to approach events with, you know, a sense of creativity, a sense of stylistic touch. If any of you, you know, eat lunch in the cafeteria, you'll recognize me as the man from the stairs. My face is on there. And I think that kind of innovation can be brought to student government, and we can spice up old events. And the last thing I want to talk about, and the thing I think that's the most important for a president, is experience. Because let's face it, everybody has a vision. Everybody wants to, you know, do things. Everybody wants to do this. They all want more transparency. But the thing that I think I can ultimately do is I have the experience. I've been on there for 2 years. I've seen failures. I've seen successes. I know the mistakes that people have made, and I can transition these mistakes into successes in the future, which I think is a big thing that works for me.
At this point, we're going to ask Nestor our last question, one that he was not able to prepare for. And the question is, every year we see a presidential campaign and we see promises of this and promises of that. But what I want to know on behalf of St. Mike's students is, what can you promise us, or what can you do for us that will make us want to vote for you?
I mean, I think the thing with promises is you can't promise a single thing. You can't promise, you know, to do like a single dance or, you know, a single, you know, event. But I can promise you that if I'm elected, we're going to have a memorable year. And I think the way I envision St. Mike's next year is I think I have a realistic vision. When I organize events, when I try to approach tasks, I try to find out the basic issues. For example, is this feasible? Can this sort of thing be done? Are students okay with it? And I think the thing with me is I have a vision. And as I've stated before, every single candidate has a vision. But I have the experience. I have sat on student government, and I know what has to be done to get the job done. And this will be my catchphrase or slogan for the campaign. I've been getting the job done in the past, so I can get the job done in the future.
On that note, we are going to thank Nestor for coming by today.
Thank you, Kevin.
And hopefully all the St. Mike's men that will be watching this have learned a little bit more about yourself and what you stand for during these elections. Thank you.
Thanks.